What's going on, everybody? Today I wanted to talk about the best class to swap to, and now class change has come out today, supposed to be when this video comes out live. And so I want to talk about my thoughts on each of these classes. As someone who's played 500 plus hours of this game, has been in Legend PvP quite often, and overall just experienced a ton of this game. The opinions for PvP tier lists, PvE tier lists, all that stuff has been massively evolved since beta, as well as since the beginning of this game. And so I just want to give you a quick gist of each one of these classes, what I think is the best class, and overall what I think are the most effective classes in general. Let's get into it. All right, so we're going to start off and just go straight down the list here, starting off with Barbarian. Now, there's obviously a ton of game modes in PvE, and there's also PvP. And obviously, if you're not a PvPer at all, some of the opinions can change. But I'm going to give you the overall general kind of a list that I would give for classes, as well as some of their strengths and some things that are interesting if you have played these classes. Now, myself, I've played Crusader is my absolute most played. That is my main character, but I've also played 100 hours of the Demon Hunter at this point, as well as several hours of the Monk, as well as a little bit of the Barb and the Wizard, a tiny bit, and then I really haven't touched the Necromancer all that much, but those are the personal classes that I've played so far, and I've got a lot of information on all the classes in terms of builds and strategies and overall, because I've seen all the classes played. Now, as I said, Barbarian, this is going to be the first class we go over. These guys, I would pretty much consider them bottom, if not close to the bottom of the barrel. Now, they really have some good support skills. The only problem is that they don't really work the way you want them to. They have a group sprint buff, a group damage buff. Problem is, in PvE, oftentimes your group isn't close enough together to take advantage of these, or it's just that you spawn in, you run really quickly, and the group sprint buff, again, not close enough together, because you'll have your Crusaders run ahead on their horses. Demon Hunters may be using their daring swing, so you have to kind of coordinate in order for you to get value out of these things. And on top of that, they really don't have a lot of damage. Their single target damage is honestly kind of lacking overall. They do have Whirlwind, which brings everyone together, but their AoE damage is honestly kind of lacking as well, at least in PvP. Especially in PvP, because this is a class that has to get in your face, and you have so many classes that are easily able to avoid you, as well as easily able to CC you to prevent you from getting in up close. Now, in PvE, as I mentioned, you have those group buffs, but your single target damage and your AoE damage is a little bit lower. You're really just a utility bot with your AoE sprint buff, your AoE damage buff, and the ability to gather enemies together is really what you're going to be used for. So overall, I would actually put the Barbarian as one of the worst classes in the game currently in terms of use as for groups, as well as value in PvP. So if you really do enjoy playing that really speedy class and running around all the time and just spinning all the time, gathering people up, Barb is definitely something that you want to check out. But overall, if you want to do it for value and strength in terms of these game modes, at least from my opinion, I would put the Barbarian as one of the weakest classes in the game. Then we have the Wizard. This class is absolutely insane, super underrated, including by myself. And the real reason why the Wizard was underrated is because we were assuming that they weren't super mobile, and we were assuming that they didn't have a lot of CC. Now, both of those things are actually crazily different in the reality of the game. I will say that in PvE, it is difficult to keep up with your groups and to move around the map quickly compared to a lot of the other classes like Barbarian, like Crusader, even like Demon Hunter, to be honest. But this class is a lot of stationary channels and a lot of placement and sitting and comboing with those placed abilities. That being said, this class is going to do insane damage, really solid, as well as being able to just completely decimate in PvP. They have the strongest CC move, in my opinion, in the game, and that is going to be Black Hole, which you'll see on the screen right here. It's going to gather everyone together, stun you, just to be a most obnoxious CC ability, as well as having Teleport, which usually people run the ability to put down a clone and turn you invisible. So you have crazy mobility and crazy outplay potential in PvP, as well as your range is crazy long. So if you really want to dominate PvP, Wizard is one of those classes that's going to be able to do that for you exceptionally well. I will say, as we enter some of the other classes, melee classes tend to be worse in PvP, and range classes tend to be way better in PvP. So Wizard is going to be one of those classes that, in my opinion, is the all-time best PvP class currently, and will do really good work for you in PvE. However, they're a much slower paced class in PvE, so if you want, or you're that type of person that runs around, likes to play from far range, likes to play with those channels, likes to combo with your Ice Crystal, this is something that you might want to try with the Wizard. Next up, we have the Demon Hunter, and as I mentioned with the Barb and the Wizard, Demon Hunters, because of the range, they're going to be inherently more valuable generally. However, I will say that they're honestly, in my opinion, one of the weaker classes, not like bottom three, I guess you could say, I guess they're top three, in my opinion, maybe number 3 in terms of PvP viability. I do think they're behind the Wizard. I do think they're behind the Necromancer, and this class does a lot of damage. That's really what you're going to get in for. The one thing that I will mention, that a lot of things have changed in terms of opinions from beta and early launch. This class has crazy strong CC moves. They have the Rain of Vengeance that can be turned into the Stampede of Wolves, which provides a stun as well as an interrupt for abilities. It's absolutely insane and definitely overlooked from people who are saying Demon Hunter has 0 CC. On top of that, they have chilling moves on their abilities, which chill is one of the strongest debuffs in PvP. It slows down animations and slows down your attack speed, slows down everything. It's super, super oppressive. And so I think the Demon Hunters actually has some really good tools for that. However, if you're playing as a Demon Hunter and you're going into PvP, you are going to get jumped on. You're going to have a hard time surviving if you are not having a really solid team, kind of having that front line, or if you're not playing too well. But if you're playing in PvE, this is my all-time favorite class for PvE. And the main reason for this is, one, they're super relaxing because they can move and shoot. They're ranged. They do a ton of damage, as well as they just overall can just clear through everything while chilling or standing in place. A lot of your time in this game is going to be spent doing open world farming, doing dungeons, things like that. So being able to move and shoot, being able to stand in place and shoot, being able to just have that ranged ability is a huge bonus, and being able to move and kind of relax is a huge bonus, especially when you're playing this game as much as I do. So I would definitely recommend the Demon Hunter for those of you that want to change of place from the melee classes, get some big damage numbers out there, as well as a little bit of a different play style in PvP. Then we have the Monk here, and the Monk is going to be an extremely viable class in PvP, but falls off quite a bit in PvE. Now, this Monk is going to be the most mobile class in the entire game. So if you want to jump around, you want to teleport, this is definitely going to be the class for you. You're going to be running around the map. You're going to be smacking people in the face, especially in PvP. You have the Flying Dragon, you have the Mystic Strike. Those abilities are going to give you incredible mobility potential, as well as some of them giving you iframes. Iframes are invincibility frames, so you cannot be hit, cannot be targeted, things like that, which are really, really impactful in PvP. These guys are really hard to escape, really hard to catch, and also have CC immunity inbuilt with their kits. Very, very strong PvP class. Now, the downside of the Monks are going to be that PvE game mode when you're trying to group up with players and you don't really have a whole lot to offer. You have the Inner Sanctuary damage buff to the whole team, which is nice. However, you're really going to lack the damage and the group support that some of these other classes provide, like Crusader, like Wizard, like Demon Hunter, but not a terrible class, just not a great class in PvE for the Monk. Definitely a more PvP focused character, as well as a character that a lot of people will play simply for the mobility aspect of them, because they are the most mobile class in the entire game. Then we have the Crusader, and this is obviously the one I have the most experience on, as I said at the beginning. But this class is an all-time PvE monster. They are hands down my pick for the absolute best PvE class in the game, unless you're talking about solo pushing challenge rifts. That's the only exception. But if you want a class that's going to constantly be wanted for any group, completely speeding up any group content because of Banner. Not only that, but incredible variety in builds in PvP, able to provide so many different utility skills like the damage immunity or things like that for PvP. You're gonna want to pick up the Crusader. Definitely a very interesting class, especially since they're actually quite mobile. the probably second most mobile class in the game due to their draw and quarter their horse. They're going to be moving around a lot. So lots of build variety, lots of real importance in PvE, especially in group content. And then in PvP, in my opinion, they're actually quite lackluster. I've kind of changed my opinion from Crusader being one of the strongest to honestly Crusader being one of the weakest, and that is due to their strong counterparts, strong opponents, wizards and necromancers. They completely dumpster on Crusaders. It's really hard to get into the fights. It's really hard to dish out damage. So you end up being a full support oftentimes with banner, with immunity, and you just try to kind of play a frontline character and support your team. So if that's not interesting to you for PvP, then I would not recommend the Crusader. But overall, very, very strong class as a support mainly. Does a little bit of damage in solo kind of combat, but very, very much so less than some of the other classes. Then we have the last one, that's going to be Necromancer. Now, Necromancer is a very interesting class because they're probably the most unique ones on the list with their summons. The fact that they have such a different playstyle from all these other classes in terms of managing those summons. Now, they are probably the strongest solo PvE class, as well as one of the most important classes in PvP. In my opinion, the strongest support class in PvP, and overall, probably next to the wizard, maybe a little bit better or a little bit worse, depending on what situation you put them into. And that is mainly due to their insane CC ability in PvP with the Bone Pillar, Bone Spikes, and their amazing CC immunity that's party-wide with their Bone Armor. Those skills are completely oppressive and turns the Necromancer into a complete support monster in PvP. And in PvE, you're going to be running those mass summons that I was talking about, running through, being able to kind of relax a lot more while being ranged. They're actually able to just hang back, let their summons kill stuff. So again, if you do some of those more relaxing farms, this is going to be a great class for you. And then of course they have such a build variety in challenge rifts, as well as being able to push challenge rifts super far due to some of their unique mechanics, like creating bone walls, locking your opponents behind corridors, as well as using the summons to kind of take aggro, or all sorts of different combinations of skills that allow you to push into challenge rifts and overall group content. Very, very impactful class. Honestly, Necromancer is going to be the strongest class in the game currently, in my opinion. But as a final conclusions, these last couple of minutes for the classes, what is overall the best classes? I've kind of gone over and given you a quick gist of each class. I would say that if you're looking to push into PvP and you really want to get some impact with your abilities and your overall effectiveness in PvP, Necromancer, although you don't feel like you're doing a lot yourself, the amount of oppressive CC and CC immunity, it is a complete nightmare to play against a good Necro because of their ability to just completely mess up the map. So definitely, although you're not doing a ton of damage in PvP, you are a nightmare to fight against. Wizard, if you want to do some mass damage and be a nightmare, definitely go with the Wizard for PvP. And then I would actually suggest the Monk or the Demon Hunter. These classes are very good in PvP. If you're looking to push into PvE content and you want to have less of a hard time finding groups or people wanting them in your groups, or just having a hard time clearing through dungeons because people die all the time or it's going so slow, Crusader is going to be the one you want to go for. Definitely for the support skills with the banner, or Demon Hunter, really strong class for the damage dealt. Honestly, all these classes have an advantage except for the Barbarian. I can't really recommend the Barbarian in terms of viability in the game modes, generally speaking, which is really unfortunate. I think that they just don't have a best in slot. Like, if I'm comparing the best PvE class, it's going to be Crusader, Demon Hunter for me. If I'm talking about the best PvP class, it's going to be Wizard, Necro, or Monk. Honestly, I think these three are very similar. And then Barb is kind of left out, to which I think the Barb is probably the weakest class in the game overall. So if I kind of rate these classes overall, I definitely would say that Barbarian is kind of the worst. And then I would put the Monk, Demon Hunter, and the Wizard all kind of in the same category, where they're really strong in their respective game modes, but definitely don't really have a super standout. Then Crusader And the reason why I have Crusader above the other ones, even though I think they're a little lackluster in PvP, it's because of how impactful they are in PvE content. And honestly, that's most of the game. So definitely pick up a Crusader if you're interested in PvE. And then I would honestly put Necromancer as the #1 best class in the game. They're absolute monsters in solo content, absolute monsters in PvP. They really don't have a poor game mode. The only thing is, if you pick a Necro, expect to do a lot less damage than some of the other classes out there, even less than the Crusader in certain circumstances, because a lot of your builds focus on the support, or a lot of your builds focus on the CC. And so yes, you can do a lot of damage, but overall, your builds in PvP at least will be focusing purely on supporting. So if you were to swap to a class, those are the classes overall, the best class. Am I going to swap to a new class? I would say that probably not for the foreseeable future. Well, I guess that's for the next at least week or so, because I don't really want to farm for all the legendary items over again. But if I were to pick another class to swap into, I would definitely pick probably Wizard or Demon Hunter, because I really enjoy the ranged classes currently, and I would like to do more damage. And so I would focus on the Wizard or the Demon Hunter because of those two reasons. But let me know if you all are considering class change, and if you've already done it already, or if you plan on doing it, what class you're changing to in the comments down below. Very curious to see, especially you Barbs out there, because I know that you have had a rough go of it from PvP, as well as kind of lackluster PvE as well. So there you have it. Those are my opinions, and I will see you for the next video.